Hello, I'm Christian, and welcome to the Jamoir International podcast, where we talk about effective collaboration, influence, and leadership in an increasingly complex world. My interview partner is Dr. Dirk Schlimm. Dirk is an international leadership expert and the author of Influencing Powerful People. The purpose of this podcast is to share ideas and stimulate discussion, and it does not constitute professional advice of any kind. If such advice is needed, the services of a competent professional should be sought. The speakers, host, and Jamoir International Incorporated are not to be held responsible for any use, misuse, or reuse of the content. Enjoy the show. Welcome back, everyone. In recent weeks, we have been hearing more and more about an economic downturn and even a recession that's coming our way. At the same time, at least in North America, the job market remains strong and many employers can't even find people that they need. Dirk, what's going on here? Wouldn't we expect unemployment to go up if we were in a downturn or even a recession?
Yeah, Christian, you're right. We are indeed finding ourselves in a very unusual situation, economically speaking. On the one hand, at the beginning of the second half of 2022, there are more warnings of a slowing economy, and yet the job market has shown little sign of pullback. Some companies have announced that they're slowing their hiring pace, but others are still looking to add people, and unemployment has remained low. And even the Wall Street Journal, America's foremost business paper, is calling it a riddle. For some reason, some reasons for the downturn are global, while others are more local. And we have put a couple of articles in the show notes below that talk about this, some at a more global level, and then others specifically looking at the US and the UK.
Thanks, Dirk. And I will again encourage people, those links will be down below, but I want to follow up with perhaps a bit of a layperson's take here. So we're having a downturn and that's on the way, but the job market is still strong. Do we really have any reason to worry here?
So that is a bit of a conundrum, and it's true that the pandemic has upended some of the economic orthodoxies, to use that term, that we're used to. Like a recession automatically means a weak job market, and there are some specific reasons for that, and some experts point to baby boomers who are entering retirement, or other consequences of the pandemic. Let me give you an example here. So, for example, airlines let go of a lot of staff at the beginning of the pandemic because air travel was down, and these people retired or took other jobs. Like, for example, a baggage handler may now be stocking supermarket shelves, or take groceries to, when you go pick up your groceries with a car, that person brings you the groceries. And now these former baggage handlers don't necessarily want to come back to being a baggage handler now that air travel is picking up, because some of them find that stocking shelves is a better job than handling heavy luggage, especially if the pay is the same. And finding baggage handlers, believe it or not, is harder, more difficult than it may seem, because they work in an airport, and so they need a security clearance, and that's a complication. And then also, when you get a new baggage handler, it takes them a while to take a hang of things. Luggage can get stuck, and it's heavy. You need some skill. It's like everything. It's once you do it, it's not as easy as you may think. And at the same time, lots of people want to travel now that the travel restrictions have come to an end. So, and this kind of dynamic, which is very specific to this industry, but that exists in other industries too. So, for example, skilled trades people are retiring and creating a shortage. But on the whole, I don't think that in the long run you really cannot have a weak economy and a strong job market. I'm not an economist, but I think it will catch up at some level at least.
Right. Thanks, Dirk. And that was a helpful example, and that might explain some of the news we're seeing here about our airport in the Toronto area. But thinking about ourselves now in our various contexts, what do we do about this? How do we perhaps manage as professionals, team leaders, and managers during a downturn? I mean, do we just take it as it comes and hope for the best? Or are there things that we could do to fare better off during these difficult economic times?
Yeah, Christian, you're right. First of all, there's really little we can do to control or even influence the macroeconomic picture or environment. There are forces much bigger that are at play here. Uh, but I do think there are things we can do to help our companies where we work to fare better and we can also help ourselves.
Okay, Dirk, let's get practical then. What do you have in mind here?
Yeah, I do believe that during a downturn, companies will eventually have to pull back. I mean, that is an economic fact of life, but they will try and do the minimum damage to their company and may even look for opportunities to position themselves better and come out of the downturn stronger.
How would they do that?
So ultimately, companies and economies need to increase productivity to keep growing. They need more output with the same resources, and they're getting this by using better processes, add automation or digitization, or they get smarter and higher performing people. And so the downturn gives them a reason to cut back in some areas, especially where cutting back may be overdue anyway, but they will also try and become more productive in others. And so they're looking for what is called no regrets type of changes.
Dirk, that's clear. And I think that's great advice for perhaps the executives or the CEOs. But how would that help us who work in such a company like this?
Yeah, as a manager, in my opinion, you don't want to wait until the cost-cutting memo from the CEO comes or the finance manager shows up and asks you to reduce the cost of your operation or make cuts on your team. You want to be proactive so that you can be really thoughtful. So you want to know exactly what your people are doing. You want to know where the costs are in your department, and you want to think about what may no longer be mission critical and so on. In other words, you want more than ever before to be running a tight ship and to have a plan ready to pull back further, get rid of things that have questionable value, really manage performance and deal with performance problems on your team.
Okay, Dirk, that makes a lot of sense. It might take a bit of work, but I think we could see the long-term value in that advice. Do you have any other suggestions for us?
Yeah, you also may want to look at ideas and even investment where you can be more productive or become more productive and be better positioned for the future. Maybe you can bring certain outsourced activities in-house where they can be done more effectively, or you automate processes and so on. And so you really want to put yourself into the perspective of an outside efficiency, performance, and productivity consultant who takes a cold, hard look at your business. And you also want to involve your key people in this exercise. What ideas do you have? And that has the additional benefit of communicating, we're in this together. This is so much better than trying to insulate your people from the harsh realities and pretend that everything is fine.
Okay, Dirk, that sounds really good and it sounds really helpful. But again, maybe sounding a bit like a layperson, you're presenting this advice for things to do during a downturn or expecting a downturn coming up. But these realistically sound like things that we should be doing anyway, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But what happens during the good times is we lose some of that management discipline, and we desperately want to hang on to people because we need all the help we can get. But it's our responsibility as managers to realize when times are changing. Again, don't wait for the finance department to show up and tell you what to do. The message here is that you want to send inside your company is, I'm the manager. I understand the business context. I understand the times we're in, and I know what I have to do. And maybe hard times is what we need in order to do what we must do. You may have had some doubts before. You may have been hesitating, but now is the time to act.
Okay, again, that's coming across clear, Dirk. And that actually reminds me of one of those popular quotes that we'll often see floating around online, typically in reference to history, where hard times create strong men create good times, and good times create weak men, with those weak men creating hard times. A bit of a cycle here. And perhaps the advice you're suggesting is ways, if not to circumvent that cycle, but at least to manage it well and to move forward with momentum. But that's a great start. Do you have any other advice for us here?
Yeah, I think the other side of this is the whole cultural and aspect of this. And what I mean by that is even if you have to make some cutbacks and times are getting tough, you want to keep a positive or at least constructive attitude. When times get tough in a company, the tone sometimes can be much rougher. People are starting to get stressed. They're starting to point fingers. They're starting to get cynical, and of course you can, and sometimes you must insist on others pulling their weight, and you may have to say no to some extracurricular requests, but you want to help keep it positive. Downturns are part of the business title, and if you haven't managed through a downturn before, now might as well be the time to learn how to do it. And remember that if you're stressed out, so will be the people who work for you and your boss. And now is the time to support them. And you'd be surprised how helpful a positive interaction can be. And this is not to sugarcoat things or use this kind of corporate hype but it's a time to show that you're mature enough to realize how business works, that you understand the problem, and that you're willing to work hard to make the best of it.
Thanks, Dirk. That's really good insight. So we're going to take a hard look at our departments and teams, and we're going to do our best to stay positive. So with that said, again, this advice sounds great, and it sounds like things we can implement. But even if we do all that, the reality is we're not guaranteed to keep our jobs during a downturn, are we? So what can we do?
Yeah, you're right, Christian. Even if we do all the right things, we cannot avoid the inevitable. And so maybe your company is particularly hard hit by the downturn, or it's my type of job is affected, or there's some other reasons why the company cannot hold on to me, even if I'm trying to do all the right things. And I think we have to be prepared for that.
So how do we be prepared for that?
Yeah, so first of all, say it's always good to be financially prepared for a rainy day. So while times are good, don't live above your means, but set a few months' salary aside for an emergency fund. That would be the first thing. Second thing, make networking an ongoing habit. Stay in touch with people, including your wider network. Have a coffee chat that's in person or virtually. Try and be helpful with small things. That's a good way to stay in touch with people. Maybe you comment with some substance on an interesting LinkedIn post, or congratulate on the latest promotion, or you connect with people, or you connect them with other people when they have a job posting, and you may have somebody in mind. But keep it serious and not gimmicky, right? So they want to do this seriously and properly. And the last one would be that now may be really the time to keep building your skills. You want to think about how can I add more value, and this doesn't, this could be a thing like an executive MBA. Maybe it's time for that right now, but if that's too big, there are practical and realistic ways to look at a high quality course. This may be an offering online, and it's something that relates to your current skill and gives you the very latest in your field. So this could be something like, if you're in marketing, social media marketing, or advanced project management, or sustainable supply chain management, or digital HR transformation. But the point is, especially if you've been working in your field for some time, you want to be up to date, and you want to show you're up to date when you are looking for a new job. So I would think about something like 6 to 10 weeks with 10 hours or so a week, and that comes with a certification. So something very hands-on and very practical, and something that helps you to become more productive immediately. And the great thing is, if you do that, it may already help you in your current job, but it could also help you then in finding that job if you do have to leave the company.
Wonderful, Dirk. So just to recap, we're going to be financially prepared for that rainy day with some saving. We're going to be making a habit of networking, and not just networking for the sake of networking, but being intentional with keeping up with people. And then thirdly, and this perhaps might be the most long-lasting thing, but being sure to be on top of our skills, our profession, and maybe looking for courses or different certifications we could do to stay on the cutting edges of our field. So with that in mind, Dirk, do you take courses like that?
Yeah, Christian, that's good for you to check up on me, and it's always good to check up on people to see whether they practice what they preach. And yes, in fact, I have just completed what's known as the IGP, the Innovation Governance Program, which is offered by the Canadian Council of Innovators, and it was super valuable. It was easy to attend via Zoom. The learning was stretched out over 7 weeks, so good time to reflect between sessions. They had a great online learning community, and most importantly, they had up-to-date and relevant content on things like intellectual property management, data governance, compliance. So it was really good, and I'm glad I took it, and it's helping me right now.
Wonderful, Dirk. That's not my field, but it sounds lovely, and congratulations on getting that done. But unfortunately for now, but perhaps this is the right time to say that we've reached the end of our episode here. And I think we've taken away a lot with a downturn or even a recession perhaps on the horizon. I think we can all now carefully look at our workplaces, at our teams, and be mindful of how we might run a tight ship. We could be perhaps prepared to embrace that positive attitude, even if things get a bit tougher in our workplace or in our workspace. And finally, I think we all know some practical ways that we can prepare for what might be inevitable. And that will be staying on top of our skills in our field. That will be saving perhaps for that rainy day. And of course, that will be networking and staying in touch. And one way people might do that already is we post these podcast links on LinkedIn, but we also have a webpage so people can perhaps take a look at that, leave a comment on your blog or on the podcast here, see what other people are saying, what other people are thinking, and starting a conversation about what's going on, but also how they might apply some of the things we discussed. But as I said, that's all we have for this episode. I really hope that people will join us here again in 2 weeks when we explore another valuable topic for you, your workplace, and your team. But until then, take care.